Multiple Trump administration officials with direct knowledge tell me that in a previously undisclosed secret mission in 2017, the U.S. successfully extracted from Russia one of its highest-level covert sources inside the Russian government. Knowledge of the Russian covert source's existence was highly restricted within the U.S. government. According to one source, there was, quote, no equal alternative inside the Russian government, providing both insight and information on Putin. A person directly involved in the discussions said that the removal of the Russian was driven in part by concerns that President Trump and his administration repeatedly mishandled classified intelligence and could contribute to exposing the covert source as a spy. The decision to carry out the extraction occurred soon after a May 2017 meeting in the Oval Office in which Trump discussed highly classified intelligence with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and then Russian Ambassador to the U.S. Sergei Kislyak. The intelligence concerning ISIS in Syria had been provided by Israel. The disclosure to the Russians by the president, though not about the Russian spies specifically, prompted intelligence officials to renew discussions about the potential risk of exposure, according to the source directly involved in the matter. At the time, then CIA Director Mike Pompeo told other senior Trump administration officials that too much information was coming out regarding the asset.
This is incredibly significant and great reporting, important reporting. I know you worked for a long time on this. This is not the first time that they were concerned about this asset.
No, and this background is important. At the end of the Obama administration, U.S. intelligence officials had already expressed concerns about the safety of this spy and other Russian assets, given the length of their cooperation with the U.S., this according to a former senior intelligence official. Those concerns grew in early 2017 after the U.S. intelligence community released its public report on Russian meddling in the 2016 election, which said that Putin himself ordered the operation. The intelligence community also shared a classified version of the report with the incoming Trump administration, and it included highly protected details on the sources behind that intelligence. Senior U.S. intelligence officials considered extracting at least one Russian asset at the time, but did not do so, according to the former senior intelligence official. Then the meeting with the Russians happened in the Oval Office. That raised new talks and new concerns in the intel community, continuing to grow in the period after Trump's Oval Office meeting with Kislyak and Lavrov. Weeks after that decision to extract the covert source, the president met privately with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the G20 summit in Hamburg. You may recall that at the meeting, he took the unusual step of confiscating the interpreter's notes. Afterwards, intelligence officials again expressed concern that the president may have improperly discussed classified intelligence with Russia, according to an intelligence source with knowledge of the intelligence community's response to that Trump-Putin meeting.
So the administration, Jim, what is the administration's response to all this?
Okay, we've reached out to a number of officials in the administration as well as the CIA. A U.S. official said that before the secret operation, there was media speculation about the existence of such a covert source, and such coverage or public speculation poses risks to the safety of anyone that a foreign government suspects may be involved. However, this official did not identify any public reporting to that effect at the time of this decision, and CNN itself could not find any related reference in media. Asked for comment, Brittany Bramall, the CIA Director of Public Affairs, told CNN, and I'm quoting, CNN's narrative that the Central Intelligence Agency makes life or death decisions based on anything other than objective analysis and sound collection is simply false. Misguided speculation that the president's handling of our nation's most sensitive intelligence, which he has access to each and every day, drove an alleged exfiltration operation is inaccurate. A spokesperson for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo declined to comment. White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham told me the following, quote, CNN's reporting is not only incorrect, it has the potential to put lives in danger. However, we should note this. This removal happened at a time of wide concern in the intelligence community about mishandling of intelligence by Trump and his administration. Those concerns were described to CNN by 5 sources who served in the Trump administration, intelligence agencies, and Congress. I should also note that CNN is withholding several details about this spy to reduce the risk of the person's identification.
When it comes to the big picture here and the importance of reporting out something like this, as you have for weeks on end now, what is the cost to the United States losing an asset like this inside of Russia?
It's significant. It has left the U.S. without one of its key sources on the inner workings of the Kremlin and the plans of thinking of the Russian president, this at a time when tensions between the two nations have been growing. The U.S. intelligence community considers Russia one of the two greatest threats to U.S. national security, along with China. A former senior intelligence official tells me, quote, "The impact would be huge because it is so hard to develop sources like that in any denied area, particularly Russia, because the surveillance and security there is so stringent." And adding, you can't reacquire a capability like that overnight.
Obviously, Mugabe, a complex man. He was once described as being like Nelson Mandela, but he was ousted in disgrace. What will be his legacy?
He's seen as the founding father of a democratic Zimbabwe, but there's no debate that in the 3 decades of his rule, Zimbabwe went from being a thriving nation to being a beggar on the African continent. He's still held in high esteem by many of the freedom fighters, but for new generations of Zimbabweans, he is the man who denied them democracy, who denied them opportunities, and led to so many Zimbabweans fleeing and going to other African countries in search, I suppose, of a better life.
Back in 2017, when the military no longer supported him, what was the turning point, David, that led to that moment?
The turning point, many feel, was that the First Lady at the time, Grace Mugabe, was making a power play with other members of a faction within the ruling ZANU-PF, and it was just not acceptable to Emerson Mnangagwa and others. Because of his long-term failing health, Mugabe has been on and off sick for a very long time. He died at the age of 95, after all. There was a factional battle to see who would succeed him, and given the man that he was, he never really set up a legacy or a continuation of power beyond him. There was a moment when the opposition, many believed, won an election where Mugabe clung onto power, and that could have been a moment where he stepped away from power and solidified his legacy as an icon of the liberation struggle. But because of that, and because of many other actions, both while president and in the years since, there is a sense that legacy is tainted for many, many people. But I have to say, ordinary Zimbabweans haven't been there pretty recently, are just struggling with making ends meet. A proud country which was a standard bearer of the liberation movement, independence, is really been brought to its knees by years of mismanagement of the economy and just of people's lives.